What if, in a single instant, the lights across Europe didn't just go out, but the entire modern rhythm of the continent just stopped breathing? Imagine one invisible pulse, one silent burst of energy from above that doesn't shatter buildings or leave a crater, but instead erases something even more fragile and infinitely more powerful: the digital heartbeat of civilization itself. Picture this terrifying morning. Every screen flickers, every signal dies. Your phone becomes totally useless, your GPS map turns into literal nonsense, and you, along with millions of other people across Europe, are looking around in absolute confusion, asking the exact same impossible question at exactly the same time: what just happened? See, this isn't the kind of disaster you can hear coming. There is no roar, there's no warning siren in the sky.
Section 1. The silent pulse strikes. The terrifying silence after the pulse. Okay, let's dive into this, because the most chilling part of an EMP is that there is absolutely no warning siren. Just a slow, shocking realization. A screen freezing in Paris just looks like a local glitch. A power hiccup in Berlin feels like a totally routine outage. But then, the pattern spreads like wildfire. The failures cascade with brutal speed. Trains stop dead in dark station tunnels. Air traffic control loses vast portions of their systems. Traffic lights freeze at thousands of intersections simultaneously. Cash machines fail instantly. Internet routing collapses in pockets, then entirely. Logistics networks suddenly lose all coordination. The invisible structure that makes your modern life possible is collapsing, and it's happening everywhere all at once.
Let's move to the timeline of chaos and see how this builds. In the very first minutes, government leaders are rushed into crisis rooms, frantically trying to figure out if this is a massive solar event, a cyber attack, or a high-altitude detonation. But while they're desperately seeking answers, the public is already living in the aftermath. Within the first hours, airports and roads are completely paralyzed, and as we stretch into the first days, the very necessities of life, like water systems and hospitals, are severely tested.
Section 2. Infrastructure and system collapse. A modern city losing coordination. Think of a modern city like a giant human body. When its digital nerves are disrupted, it doesn't just stop, it loses all of its coordination. Airports would be among the very first places this massive loss of coordination becomes super visible. Without the systems that guide, sort, schedule, and actually manage movement, flights are immediately delayed, diverted, or grounded. Just imagine standing in a massive European terminal under dim emergency lighting. You're looking up at departure boards that simply no longer update and listening to officials trying to speak calmly into dead loudspeakers. The sheer vulnerability of that moment is staggering.
And if you think you could just hop in your car and drive home, look at how the roads would fail. First, electronic systems in newer vehicles might act entirely unpredictably. Second, traffic systems and navigation data completely die out. Third, highways become instantly clogged, turning every intersection into an immediate hazard. And finally, emergency vehicles are left struggling to move through this massive, gridlocked urban congestion. You are simply trapped.
For hospitals, this sudden loss of power and communication is a brutal test. Modern medicine is heavily built around electricity and digital records. While some backup systems would activate, the pressure on ICUs, emergency rooms, and lab equipment would be enormous. Doctors and nurses are suddenly forced to work in a world that feels older and infinitely harsher. For patients relying on machines, the stakes are terrifyingly high. The hospital instantly becomes a symbol of both our intense vulnerability and our desperate resilience. You know, civilization is usually measured by the things people never really have to notice, like clean water. But without power, pumping stations stop, treatment plants halt purification, electronic sensors fail, and distribution control is entirely lost. Suddenly, you aren't worried about the morning news headlines. You're desperately worried about the water pressure in your taps and how you're going to secure basic drinking water for your family.
Section 3. The economic shock. Attacking the trust in modern systems. As the initial panic starts to settle into a grueling reality, the shockwaves move straight from physical infrastructure directly into the heart of our financial world.
So the crucial point is this. Europe is one of the most interconnected economic regions in the world, and a modern economy runs entirely on trust. An EMP doesn't just destroy physical circuits, it attacks that trust directly. Without the energy and communication systems that support global finance, certainty just vanishes.
This leads to a total financial freeze. Banks go offline. Your card payments completely fail. You literally can't buy basic food. Supply chains, which are built entirely on just-in-time logistics, instantly unravel into instability, and retail stores face immediate panic buying. Businesses suddenly have absolutely no certainty about shipments or staff coordination. Everything just halts.
Section 4. Geopolitical fallout. Was it an accident or an act of war? As the economy paralyzes, governments face monumental moral and political questions under immense pressure. Should they declare emergencies, restrict travel, deploy the military to secure critical infrastructure? Every single choice carries pain. If they speak too soon, they spread misinformation. Wait too long, and they lose public trust entirely. Intelligence agencies across the continent would be in an absolute panic, trying to answer one question. Is this a warning shot or the opening move of a war? Because if a state actor has the capability to blind an entire continent without dropping a single conventional bomb, they have demonstrated an extraordinary, world-altering level of power. Grid security and air defense would instantly become the ultimate global priority.
And this brilliantly illustrates how recovery is not a straight line. It's a very uneven mosaic. Notice the contrast here. On one side, regions with protected infrastructure and redundant backups recover under a protective dome. But on the other side, areas heavily dependent on fragile digital networks are left in the dark to face a grueling struggle. One city might have power, while its neighbor is completely dark. One hospital functions while another is totally overwhelmed.
Section 5. Recovery and human resilience. When machines go silent, people become the network. This brings us to the grueling, manual endurance of the cleanup. It won't be some dramatic, fast-paced movie montage. It will be slow, hard, and absolutely exhausting. Engineers inspecting substations one by one. Technicians physically replacing burned-out components. Every restored system will be a hard-fought victory. And there is a fascinating irony in how we recover. A hyper-advanced continent built on fragile fiber cables and satellites will actually be forced to rediscover the life-saving power of analog radio waves. When the internet is completely silent, a simple, battery-powered radio broadcasting signals through the air becomes the ultimate treasure, literally the only lifeline to the outside world. Now, what's really interesting here is that disaster doesn't just breed panic, it reveals profound human discipline. We see nurses keeping patients stable completely manually, bus drivers helping stranded commuters, neighbors sharing candles, and engineers working tirelessly through the night. The very crisis that exposes our technological weakness ends up revealing our deepest strength, human cooperation.
Because ultimately, the true opposite of an EMP is not electricity. It is human spirit. When the machines go silent, people become the network. It reminds us that our future isn't protected by technology alone, but by the wisdom to build reliable backups and the humility to understand that our progress always comes with immense responsibility.
The scariest part of this silent pulse isn't that it turns the lights out. It's that it proves just how much of our lives depends on the massive assumption that the lights will always come back on. If this explainer made you realize just how fragile our connected world really is, I want you to comment your own theory down below, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure to subscribe so you never miss our next impossible question. Because the next what if could be even bigger.